Alrighty, welcome to my ban list video for the December 2020 ban list. The prediction video, obviously. The ban list isn't fully out yet, and we're just out here. We're sitting on the couch. We're just gonna talk, man. We're just gonna talk about this format. And I'm not just gonna go right into the bulk of what the predictions are gonna be, because me and my friends, a few of us, well versed in the format, well experienced in what the issues of it are and things like that, what the problems are. We got into a Discord call and we were just chatting and we put together a hypothetical list. And there's a lot of cards on it. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of other people's lists at this point. And maybe you don't care about people's predictions. So if you're watching this, thank you. I appreciate it. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. But before we go into that bulk list, I want to sort of start off by saying what in general I think is particularly wrong with the format that we're currently playing in. And I'm also like the most passionate I've been about making a ban list video in quite some time. I think the last time I was really this adamant about speaking up about how bad I think the game is right now. And some people are like, oh, format's fine. What are you talking about? These people, I feel like they're just delusional. I don't know what it is. But I don't think it's been this bad since Firewall was like running around FTKing people with Cannon Soldier. And people were still saying, oh, Cannon Soldier's the problem. But I digress. Before we go any further, here's a quick way you can support the channel. If you're interested in picking up some high quality TCG gear and accessories, consider checking out ImperiumDuelist.com at the link below. Feel free to use my discount code WinterKills10 off at checkout to get 10% off your entire order and support the channel in the process. Don't forget to use my affiliate link to TCG Player as well to support the channel. And if you want to become a member of the channel today, click that blue join button down below for more information and how you can get videos early and exclusive behind the scenes content. But with all that out of the way, what's my main issue with this particular format? The first thing is like games are very, very short. Games end very, very quickly, which I do not think is healthy for a game, especially a game that when you look back many, many years ago, games often were 10, 15, 20 plus turns, and there was a lot of back and forth interaction, a lot of, thought that actually had to go into plays and like trying to counteract your opponent. I feel like we're to the point now, and more so in this format. Yeah, formats have been fast with combo decks and things and OTK decks. They've been fast before, but I feel like nowadays, especially at the top, there's so little interactive gameplay. Games are over so quickly. They're often decided at the die roll. And one of the biggest culprits of this, I feel like, is the Virtual World deck. Obviously, this deck just came literally out of nowhere in Phantom Rage. And it just turbos out True King of All Calamities, which is basically a turn skip. That's not fun. It's not fun. And they can turbo out 2 of them, I've heard. And in some cases, if they don't use it in the standby phase or the draw phase, which I don't know why the hell they wouldn't, they often have that trap card that makes, Dark Ruler, Droplet, and, the like irrelevant, because you can just pop your own Calamities and it's still going to resolve. It just won't be on the field for you to be able to, get rid of it with, your interruption spells, your board breaking cards. Just makes them irrelevant. And there's just so many interactions nowadays as well, where there's such an emphasis on having to draw a certain out to a card or a certain out to a board. Like, I need to draw 2 hand traps versus Dragon Link or I lose. Like, that in of itself creates a problem in the game inherently, because all of your deck building, all of the theory you put into the deck that you're playing and whatever else goes into that process, which can be very long and arduous, gets thrown out the window because of a huge luck factor that has now been put in place. You have a really good, Invoke Dogmatica deck, right? But you're playing against Dragon Link. Your list is great. The engine you put together is awesome. Maybe you got some side, some text on the side or whatever. But you're playing, 10, 13 hand traps. Why? Because you have to stop Dragon Link. You have to stop them in some cases 2 times. 2 different points you have to stop them. Because funny Helk go burr. But you didn't draw them. Was it your deck building? Is your deck building off? Should you just play 20 hand traps? 25? Obviously, that's a bit absurd, but, like, you get what I'm saying. Feel free to disagree, but that in of itself is a terrible, terrible, terrible format, in my opinion. When you have things like that happening and you have deck building that needs to be done like that in order to have any sort of chance. It's just uninteractive gameplay, just too much reliance on having to draw X or Y card, and it's just not fun. Too many unfun things about the game right now. And we'll go ahead and talk about what cards are sort of attributing to those, and why I think the game needs to drastically slow down, because it only seems to get worse and worse every year with the tremendous power creep problem that this game has. And I don't understand why it's so hard to fix it, because it's very, very easy to fix it. You just stop printing cards like Droplet, Lightning Storm, Dark Ruler No More, Zoo King Alpha. Like, you stop printing those cards and you hit the cards that, you know, make those cards needed, right? That's whatever. So we're going to talk about banned. What cards do we want banned? Well, we want True King of All Calamities banned. Why? Because he's literally a turn ender. I played in locals today, and I played against Virtual World. You want to tell me what? I'll tell you what happened. True King of All Calamities happened. Skipping turns, essentially, firing it off in the draw phase. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Just simply be built different and draw the card, the exact card you need? What, with like Cosmic Cyclone paired with Chalice? I don't know. Like, that's just awful. This is a card that should have been gone years and years ago, but now look what's happened. A deck has rolled around in which it can abuse the hell out of. Now, should we hit Virtual World? No, because I think Virtual World without Calamities is a fair and balanced deck to some regard. Now, it might be able to pull off some other combos, I don't know, but right now anything seems better than Calamities Turbo, and I'm sure most of you would rather put your head through a pane of glass than sit through Calamities Turbo a few more months. Next up, Helka Fibrax. I know a lot of people out there are screaming and they're crying and they're saying, like, no, Helka Fibrax, it can stay. Helka Fibrax is fine, Winter, don't you understand? Helka Fibrax is great, you just have to ban Link Cross. Here's my argument with this. If you leave Helka Fibrax in the game, you ban Link Cross, what's going to happen? It's just going to get to the point where Helka Fibrax is just going to continue to be abused in certain decks, and people are going to adapt. They're going to find new combos with this card because, let's be honest, it enables some really dumb stuff, especially with Auroradon in the game. Now you're saying, well, just ban Auroradon. No. The only reason Auroradon can be abused is because you have a card like Helka Fibrax, which happens to be a machine Link 2 that can summon out other machine monsters from the deck that also allow to extend. If it's up to me, both Helka Fibrax and Link Cross go at the same time for the betterment of the format. Just create more balanced and less degenerate combo cards. And the thing that is also the most confusing to me is, why is it a Crystron card? It's clearly, yes, it could be used in Crystron. I mean, I don't know. But it's clearly being used in way more things than just Crystron. And we've seen it pretty much infect the format with a generic combo enabler like this. And we've seen it time and time again in the past. Nightmare Mermaid, just for an example. Any deck could easily splash the Orcus engine. And now you have any deck easily splashing Helka Fibrax packages with Despot 001 and Colt Wing and the like. So, and that's another thing too. I think if you just ban Link Cross, even with Despot 001 in the game, and don't tell me banning Despot 001 is also the solution, because you're just dodging things at that point. Just get rid of Helk, let people build combos in more balanced ways, and it'll slow the game down 100%. That's what the game needs. You have to get rid of cards like Helka Fibrax and bring back the tuners that got banned for it. That's also how you know it's a problem too. They're banning completely innocent tuner cards that were fine for ages, but now all of a sudden have to be banned because why? There's a card in the game that's so easily accessible that tutors them all out for free and it allows for comboing and link climbing, and it's just gotta go. Get it out of here. I don't care. You can type in the comments all day that you think Helka Fibrax is perfectly fine. Get rid of it. Alpi's the next one. Dragon Link has only gotten better and better, especially after the last list where it went completely untouched. You have the Dragoonity stuff on the way. Get rid of Alpi. I mean, they don't honestly need any more support, but they're giving them the Dragoonity stuff because, you know, dragons are cool, I guess. People love their big, funny dragons. just like Calamity. So just get rid of LP. You can leave Pisty in the game. That's perfectly fine. I think Pisty's a good extender because it does have to go from grave. It's not tutoring out directly from deck. Just get rid of it. I'm sure also people would love to not play against Dragon Link combo for the 19,000th time this format. Now, this next one here is Smoke Grenade. Smoke Grenade, 100% a problematic card. I've heard other people say in other videos, like, oh, Smoke Grenade's not an issue. Smoke Grenade isn't an issue if you deal with Infernoble Knight in any way, shape, or form. Well, I don't entirely agree with that, because the only way you could possibly hit Infernoble Knight in any meaningful way that would also make a relevant Smoke Grenade would, I think, just outright kill the deck. You have your, your equip enablers like Charles. If you ban Charles, I feel like the deck is in a pretty bad spot because Charles is one of the deck's, main boss monsters. Yeah, it has the side effect of popping equip spells. So let them keep that card and then get rid of the card that makes it so degenerate to face against Charles, is because there just happened to be released a card like Charles into a game where there's an extremely old equip card that really nobody cared about, and then it just happened to fit the slot so perfectly. I think if you just get rid of Smoke Grenade, I think actually, and even with Link Cross and Helka Fibrax gone, Infernoble Knight is still a playable deck. Granted, you do have to play the Ignite engine in there, and it lowers the consistency. I wouldn't say it lowers the consistency so much, because the Infernoble Knights do bring a consistency engine to them. It's just making, I think, a much more dumbed down board that isn't so extremely degenerate to the point where your opponent has to top deck a certain card, and you're not ripping multiple cards out of their hand as well. I think any card that can forcibly rip cards from the opponent's hand is pretty bad, especially when it's one as easily as Smoke Grenade paired with a deck like Infernoble Knight. It's just two bad things coming together, wrong place, wrong time. So Smoke Grenade definitely gone. Much less toxic format, and especially if Hulk and Needle Fiber or Hulk and Link Cross are going to, the more the merrier, right? Next up, we have Link Cross. I basically already talked about this. Miscellaneousaurus, this one as well. Miscellaneousaurus, 100%. I would love to see ban. I hope to see it ban. If not this format, next format, please, for the love of God, please ban Miscellaneousaurus. I don't understand why a deck that is as good as Dinosaur, especially now, with the addition of Archosaur to the deck, why you would need a card like Miscellaneousaurus. Miscellaneousaurus is so absolutely absurd. Yeah, have you read Misc? It's so completely absurd that it turns off interaction in a deck that really shouldn't have the opportunity to do so, especially a deck that's churning out Wind Barrier, Dolka, and UCT, and whoever knows what other kind of boards it can make that are just way too OP. The deck already has extreme access to a card like UCT, which it shouldn't really have that easy access to a 3,500 walking Book of Eclipse OTK machine, especially when you have a card like the True King stuff with Lithosagem and Onigmaza. Like, the deck still has plays it can make. Just make it so you can interact with it. Like, you can keep the Fossil Dig, you can keep Oviraptor, keep the babies. Like, we'll just ash the babies. That's completely fine. Just get rid of Misc. Just get rid of the card that completely says no to any form of interaction whatsoever, because that basically alludes to unfun games. Nobody enjoys it, and I think Misc going to 1 as well. Misc going to 1, I'm a little torn on, because yes, you still can technically play 7 copies with your 3 Fossil Dig and your 3 Oviraptor. So, like, in that case, they resolve the 1 Misc, it's a one and done type thing. But then again, you have the issue of, like, in certain situations, like, oh, did they hard draw the Misc? Did they have it to stop a certain hand trap play? Like, that and all this, that in a sense can kind of seem sacky. But the deck did have it at 1 for quite some time, I believe. But now I think it's just kind of the point where dinos have so much that they don't need and don't deserve a card like Miscellaneousaurus. If Dinos was literally completely absolutely unplayable, then yeah, maybe you throw him a bone with Misk. And speaking of throwing a bone, we're going to talk about something that if the Miscellaneousaurus goes, you could potentially give back to the Dino strategy and make it, you know, not such a heavy loss. Next up, Zexal. Any card that promotes basically you don't have a turn type beat should just be banned. 100%. No doubt. Especially, yeah, Zexal. People are like, oh, Zexal's not making much of an impact. But think how splashable it is. It's literally only a matter of time. You could have said that about True King of all Calamities years ago. Like, oh, it's a rank 9. What deck is going to consistently make this, right? Just get Zexal out of the game. Let them play the other cards, the Numeron cards. Let them do other stuff with that. Just don't let them make a turn ender. Let's just get rid of turn enders. Mystic Mine is a card that has been so absolutely toxic in the game for almost a couple years now at this point. I think maybe a year and a half or so. Get rid of Mystic Mine. I think there should be other terms of counterplay added to the game. In terms of like a card that's so extremely uninteractive, can't attack, can't activate effects. It's so easily abusable in so many like gimmick strategies. Then again, maybe it's not 100% needing to be hit. I feel like Mystic Mine now, I used to be so anti-Mystic Mine, and there was a while where, you know, I completely forgot about it. But I feel like this is a card that there are a few decks that will roll along in the competitive scene that'll do well, and also depending on what the format looks like, where this card could just be splashed into almost every deck. I could see it happening, where maybe the format, it's kind of slow. But there's some decks that are going in and out of the format that can like really use this card, and I can just see it becoming a 3-of staple, especially with Metaverse and Terraforming, and people just using it outright to halt the game immediately, build plenty of advantage, and get rid of it, get rid of it and then just go for game. Like this card does not seem healthy in a nutshell, and the fact that it even got to the point where we need to print a card like this as well, also kind of doesn't make sense to me. Next up is Shaddoll Winda. Shaddoll Winda might as well be Vanity's Emptiness in today's meta. It's about as close as you can get to it. Now, I know all the Shaddoll people are going to be upset about this, but when you look at a deck like Invoke Dogmatica, which I think is one of the more balanced mid-range combo decks that we have this format, that really doesn't put up any sort of cards that say, like, your turn is over, it's my turn, that's it. Like, oh, you special summon a monster, you're activating an effect that summons a card, I'll just chain Schism. I have a Winda. Oh, what's that? You summon the card? You didn't draw it? Okay, game over. I OTK you next turn. Ban Winda. Let it get to the point where maybe that deck falls out of favor, and then you could possibly bring it back. But I think in the meantime, you know, Schism's still a viable option. Just summon another App Cologne instead and use it as just a interruption in the form of a trap card instead of a floodgate that can completely end turns outright. That's just, as you can see, I'm very anti things that just end turns. Just don't let it be a thing. It's not fun. It's not fun for the person playing. It's not fun for the person that has to play against it. It just isn't. I don't care what level of gameplay you're playing at. It's just not fun, and it's boring, and it makes the game suck. Hey guys, Winter from the future here. As I'm editing this, I realized I forgot to mention Dragon Buster should be banned, so we're just going to go ahead and throw that in here now, because that card promotes some pretty degenerate gameplay, and you know how I feel about that, so that one definitely needs to get the axe. Let's move on to Limited now. Limited, Harporer. Orcus has not been in the spotlight for quite some time, and I think giving them one Harporer is completely fine, especially with the ability of the deck and recycle it. So Harporer, Mirage Stalio, definitely throw Salmon Gray to Bone 100%. Saryuja. Saryuja is another card that I think should definitely go to 1. I've been saying Saryuja should be at 1 for so long. It's not really an if with that card, but it's a when. Like, when is it going to be abused next? We've seen it countless times in various draw turbo FTK decks. Yes, it was played in Block Dragon BA, but that was one of those decks that, like, you could also get away with just playing one of it and use it as a quick boost to, like, trying to dig a little deeper into the deck to find that combo piece that you need, and also get a bit of an extension out of the cost of, you know, linking off 4 monsters, which is a pretty hefty cost for most decks. Just don't make it so you can turbo into 3 or errata the card to make it so it can't be used as link material. That I don't think is going to happen, though. Limited, Olion, Jet Synchron, and Glow Up Bulb. You could probably even just unlimit Olion and Jet Synchron. If you ban Helka Fibrax, that's not a question, really. Glow Up Bulb could go to 1 or 3, especially with the errata that I think it had a long time ago or whatever. Easily go to 3. Masterpiece is another one that I'm sure you guys have been seen floating around. Masterpiece to 1. It's like, see, people like argue like, oh, you want to get rid of a card like VFD, but you want to bring back a card like Masterpiece. Well, it's not like there's a deck out there that can turbo out Masterpiece at the same rate and efficiency that a deck like Virtual World can tune out VFD, especially with the protection to make it almost invincible in terms of it going to resolve. True Draco is True Draco, and it's not a very good deck right now by any means, especially with Diagram at 1 and Demise also being at 1 and the other hits that the deck still has right now. It's pretty much irrelevant. You give the deck 1 Masterpiece, it's this one big power play. If you out it with all the forms of removal and stuff we have currently, I just don't see it being a big issue. Invocation. I've seen people talk, saying like, maybe the Invoke stuff doesn't need to be hit. I think Invocation going to 1 100% really balances the Alistair engine. You still get to play 3 Alistair. You still get to play 3 Meltdown. All the consistency still there. It's just afterwards, if you deal with the 1 Invocation, that's it. You break the chain of them constantly having a normal summon every turn. That's going to get them a fusion summon that in some cases can't be negated. So you do have to think very wisely about how you're going to burn that 1 negation. Maybe possibly think of creative ways to recycle the Invocation back from the deck while it's banished. All sorts of things. Maybe making the player base use their brain a little bit instead of constantly having an endless normal summon loop every turn with the Invocation. And it's been in the game for 3+ years now, going on 4. I don't think it would be too problematic to see Invocation going to 1. Another thing too is how frustrating it is when they normal Alistair, you ash it, and then they have the Invocation in their hand anyways. It might as well, Alistair might as well say, your opponent discards 1 card, and you get to fusion summon for free every turn, and also have a guaranteed normal summon. That sounds like a card that like maybe should have some of its, pieces and parts be limited in some way, shape, or form. Next up, Skullcrobat, Joker, and Astrograph. I think those going to 1 apiece do help out Pendulum for the state of disrepair that is currently in. I don't even think Triff is playing Pendulum, so that should just be, a sign to say where the deck is currently. Spellbook of Judgment going to 1. I would almost pay somebody to show me something that is inherently wrong with Spellbook of Judgment being at 1. I would pay to see that. I really would. I would really pay to see somebody show me that Spellbook of Judgment going to 1 would be an issue. People are like, what about Jowgen? Jowgen is the least of your worries, I can assure you. I just don't really see it being a problem. Is Spellbook of Judgment all of a sudden coming back to 1 going to skyrocket some obscure deck to tier 0? I don't think so. It might make some of your random EDO Pro games a bit annoying, but whatever. Semi-limit, Lithosagem, this is probably a good thing to do if you ban Misk, and especially if you ban True King of All Calamities, because what was the problematic part about it? They would get access to the level 9 on board. They'd maybe get another one in the form of Onigmazet or Trishula. They'd rip a card out of your extra deck. They'd maybe rip a card out of your hand, and you wouldn't be able to respond to any of their cards because Misk is a card, and then they go into Calamities. So after this, you get rid of the potential turn-ending rank 9 that they could have gone into and give them an extra card to work with in terms of popping baby, I guess. Terrortop is a card that we also thought, and I might be a little biased with Speedroids, but Terrortop is a card, I think if you add 1 additional copy into the game, I don't think it changes things too much, save for maybe Phantom Knight decks, which if you ask me, aren't the absolute top of the top decks right now, and maybe could use a little bump in the form of having the option, if they wanted to add a Garnet to their deck. I don't know. E-Telly is a card that could go to 2. Maybe you got to be careful. You don't want too many tier 0 mutant decks showing up. So E-Telly, unlimited. I'm just going to kind of run through these real quick. Light Stage, Dynamite Knight, True King's Return, Seer and Graph alike, Reasoning, Toad Buster, Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, Draco Face-Off, the Ignister Synchro, Time Seal, Genix Ally Birdman, and Wall of Revealing Light. Probably just to name a few as well. For cards that could probably just go off the list and no one would really blink an eye. So yeah, that's it. I think that's a pretty solid list. Again, some of these things are are from other people that I've seen make other videos regarding the ban list. Just some ideas. I'm sure all of you have seen MBT's ban list video. It was very hot take like with all of those unlimits and unbans. But there is a lot of things on there, especially another card like Yatagarasu is like a card. Why is it still banned? People just have the negative impact bias, and they can't let go of it. You should really do that. There's a lot of cards though that have been on the list for quite some time that probably just don't need to be there. Everybody's afraid of what ifs, but nobody can really show the what ifs happening in terms of like, replays and like problematic scenarios of why a certain card could come back. But I don't know. Let's just see something get shaken up. This year of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been quite boring and this format sucks. So hopefully we can get back to a state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the game slows down, where games last more than a turn, and it isn't decided by a dice roll and there's actually interaction in the format. So that's it for my ban list video. Thanks for watching. And as always, a huge shout out goes to our divine level channel members here on YouTube, Academic Thick, Zors, and Cadillacs 84. Thank you guys so much as always for your generous support of the channel.